Hey guys, just a quick video to go over the short story analysis essay instructions. So the specs here are 800 to 1,000 words. It needs to be in MLA format and have academic tone. So try to, kind of formal. You can use I, that's okay. I don't mind that. But just trying to keep it nice. If you're not sure what that means, let me know and I can either try to explain it or send you a video. All right, so the goal is to read critically and write analytically for this, and we're going to do that by seeing how literary elements work to create a story's theme. So I try to break it down into pretty clear steps of like what you need to do, just because I always find that to be the difficult thing about writing is like, well, what do I do first? So your prep work for this essay is, well, you don't have class notes, review the class video, is to look over all, just make sure that you're reading all the stuff that's in each unit, especially this literary toolbox doc, which is in a different video, and just get a feel for how different literary elements can work together. Look at the writing about literature link. A good thing to do as you read the stories, if possible, you can annotate them. So take notes as you go, like underline things that seem important or interesting. There are lots of ways to do this digitally. Kindle even, like you can download, you can save all of these documents. If you send them to Kindle, like on your phone, you'll have to Google how to do that. Then you can actually underline and highlight and make notes through the Kindle app. There are lots of other apps as well if you're interested in doing that. Just do a little bit of research. I don't have any specific favorites. I use Kindle for everything just because I use my Kindle a lot. But yeah, so what I would do is like read all the other stuff, like the literary toolbox doc, the writing about literature link, before you start reading the short stories, so that you kind of know what to look for. So look for the literary elements and like make note of them as you go. So if you have find a specifically cool like metaphor or something, jot that down as you go. So here's how you're going to pick your topic. So you're going to choose one short story from this unit to write about. So you need to read all of them and do the discussion boards, but you only have to write your essay about one of them. So pick one short story, and then within that short story, you're going to pick one theme. Again, if you're like, what's a theme? Watch that literary toolbox doc video. So pick one major theme for your short story and explore it in your essay. So there are lots of ways to read literature and interpret it, and things are going to stand out differently to everybody based on like what's interesting to you, who you are, what your life experiences are. So I think the best thing I can tell you to do as you read is just to like notice what you're noticing, like notice what's standing out to you. That's usually a good place to start looking for topics. If you can put that together in a couple sentences, that's helpful too. Like if you can say, what stood out to me from Sunny's Blues was the exploration of the theme of addiction through, these two brothers' relationship or something like that. That's a good way to do it. So identify a literary element that helps create this theme. Again, look at the literary toolbox document in the video. There's lots of good stuff there. So pick one story, pick one major theme, and then pick at least one literary element that helps create that theme. Okay, so just one. And then as you read, or if you go back, gather your evidence about how those things work. So if you notice that there's, again, like metaphor in Sunny's Blues, and maybe this metaphor helps build the theme of addiction, or how this metaphor helps build the theme of brotherhood or something, just underline stuff or save stuff, and like you can, copy and paste it into a document, however you want to keep track of it. But look for like specific, precise things from the text, from the story, to see how those things work together to bring this theme to life. Your annotation will help there too. Of course, annotating, you can always just print it out and underline it. If you're like me, you're only like you don't have a printer. I don't have a printer at home. I just use my office one. So yeah. So then organize your evidence. So maybe you have a lot of examples of how metaphor is used throughout Sunny's Blues to deal with this theme of his addiction, like list that stuff out, and then you can group those quotes by literary elements. So like group them somehow, and then that's eventually going to turn into your paragraphs. So in order to analyze something, so analysis, remember, is about how and why. So it's not just what happened. What happened would be summary. How is, think about like how things work together. So how does the author create this theme of addiction? Is it by using some metaphors? Is it by like the setting, stuff like that? So we're looking at how these literary elements work together. So analysis is all about how and why. Then you can develop a working thesis statement, and you read some about that as we go. And then you build your analysis around your quotes. So discuss how the literary devices, how all that literary stuff in the Literary Toolbox doc works together. Okay. One thing, and then polish it by the end. So one thing that I encourage you to do as you write is not to write the introduction first. I would just write the easiest part first. So if you know you're going to write about the theme of addiction in Sunny's Blues, and you know you're going to talk about metaphors, and you have some decent examples of metaphors being used in the story, sometimes it's just harder to write the introduction first because you don't know what you're introducing. So go ahead and write those body paragraphs first and start with the easiest one. So instead of starting kind of top down, I write my intro first, then my first body paragraph. Think about like having a core of something, like okay, my core is of this paper is going to be about addiction and metaphors or something, and then you build it out kind of like concentric circles. You build it out from there instead of having to write it from top down, because that's not really how our minds work. It's really understandable to read things that are organized, from beginning to end. Like that makes things make more sense. But a lot of times we don't actually think or write that way. So if I would encourage you, just like write the easy parts first, and then see what you can figure out and bring it together. Personally, whenever I have to write an essay, I write all the insides first, so the body paragraphs, and then I go back and write the introduction and conclusion last, because that way I have a really clear idea of kind of what I'm introducing and what's actually going to be in the paper, and it just ends up being a little bit less frustrating to get started, and I think it helps me tie things together better. Obviously, before you turn your essay in, revise it for organization and clarity. Make sure each sentence is meaningful and makes sense, and then proofread for errors. So, I highly recommend, if you're able to come to the Blountville campus, to stop by the Writing Center. But they do also do Zoom calls and stuff. So if you want to make sure you get your essay done a little bit in advance and send it off to the Writing Center, there's a link to the Writing Center somewhere on D2L. I'll make sure you have it. But yeah, so here's the instructions. Essentially, you're going to pick one story, you're going to pick one major theme from that story, and you're going to talk about how those literary elements go to create the theme, and you're going to use evidence or quotes from the text to explain what you're talking about. All right.